It's time for the next episode of
The Horror Guys.
Yay! I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we got 5 more movies for you.
And a couple shorts.
We do. Yay!
Yay! Some old stuff and some newer stuff.
Yeah, that's a mix. We got some of both.
Yeah.
Well, what do we got?
Well, last year, there was one called The Soul Eater, a French film.
We say last year. Almost every... I don't know that we've seen any new 2025 movies yet.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Ghostbusters had a new movie, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
That came out like in the summer, and I think we both just sort of forgot about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oops.
And after we saw it, that
It's
was
still
okay
kind of
that we forgot.
forgettable,
Yeah,
but okay.
yeah. And Frankie Freako, a nice, friendly, family-friendly puppet show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going back in time, 1959, The Stranglers of Bombay, with an appearance from who? Christopher Lee.
Yes.
Yeah. And 1971's Godzilla versus Hedorah, also known as Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
I know when I watched it when I was little, it was the Smog Monster.
Yep, I remember seeing it when I was little. Yeah, and I remember liking it better then, too. And then we got a couple of shorts, too.
I don't think I like the Smog Monster much. I like Mechagodzilla and things like that.
I liked it because it freaked me out with the skeletons. That was freaky.
Yeah,
that was scary.
okay.
Yeah. Plus, it had Godzilla, which was cool. Yeah.
A really dumb version of Godzilla, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, we're going to start off with 2024's The Soul Eater, directed by Alexandre Bustillo, Julian Mare, written by Annalise Batrel, Ludovic Lefebvre, and Alexis Leipzig. Stars Virginie Ledoyen, Paul Hame, and Sandrine Bonnaire. Boy, this sounds French, don't it?
That sounds European.
Hour and 48 minutes, and it is French, and it is subtitled.
But it was totally worth it. Totally worth the read.
And I'm going to say it's probably my favorite of the week.
I was going to go out on a limb and start with that, too.
And it's just...
it is my favorite of the week.
Right on the edge of what is horror. Because spoilers, but okay.
No.
Spoiler-free what happens.
Well, this was very much a police procedural. There's a pair of officers looking into the disappearance of children in a small area. And there does seem to be a supernatural slant to things, because there is this boogeyman called the Soul Eater. And this one kid who's a survivor has supposedly seen the Soul Eater.
And we see him a couple of times.
And we see the Soul Eater, yeah. Well, the case gets weirder and darker the further they go along and the more they learn about this area and what's going on. It was kind of slow-moving, but it's very entertaining, and we both liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those ones when you think it was about over, something else comes up.
Something else happens, and then something else gets explained.
Well, a policeman interrupts Frank's run with some news. Later, he takes a bus out to the country, and at a roadblock, he catches a ride with a woman he doesn't know. He's with the federal police, I guess you'd say, the federal level, and the FBI.
Basically.
The French FBI.
A sort of French equivalent.
Yeah, and he's here to investigate alarming disappearances. Credits roll. Well, when the pair arrives at the destination, there are already flashing police cars there. Turns out the woman in the car, just some random woman on the highway, turns out to be Elizabeth Gardiano, the police commander in charge of the scene.
So she's more of a regional cop.
She's not local.
She's not from that area.
I'm going to say if he's FBI, she's state police. Yeah, because both of them are above the locals.
Yeah.
The locals don't much like either of them.
Right. Yeah, that is mentioned. Yeah.
Inside the house, there are 2 dead people, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, it looks like they killed each other very brutally.
They got into a fight and did that.
Yeah.
They have a 12-year-old, but no one can find him. Well, we cut back and forth between Frank and Elizabeth as they search different parts of the house. Well, Elizabeth finds Evan, the son, hiding in the basement. He says the Soul Eater came for them. Frank finds a weird little statuette outside in a van, and he pockets it. We see a shadowy figure on a motorcycle watching everything. Later, Frank shows Elizabeth photos of all the missing kids he's looking for. The white van at the murder scene was involved in some of those disappearances. She's only interested in the murders, but she agrees that they can work together. Well, Frank takes a shower, but then sees someone in his room. Elizabeth goes to talk to the mayor of the little town, and she chews out the local cops for not finding the hidden boy earlier. They'd been through the whole house for like hours, and this kid was hiding in a closet in the basement.
Yeah, they found him. Yeah.
She's kind of arrogant, and the locals don't like it. Their town has had some hard times in recent years. There was some, what was it? Something went on here in the past, and the tourism has suffered.
Mm-hmm. And she's not wrong, but she is arrogant about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mayor wants to say the couple just killed each other and there's no murder in their small town, but Elizabeth disagrees.
Yeah, something ain't right here.
Well, the doctor won't let Frank talk to Evan, the boy, so he sneaks in on his own. He shows Evan the missing children's photos, and he recognizes them. Evan says they're all dead.
So there's some connection here between this couple that killed each other and this kid and the missing kids.
And the Soul Eater, who the kid says killed them.
Yeah.
Evan sees the monster standing behind Frank, but Frank looks, and there's nothing there. All right, well, Elizabeth talks to the coroner, and the bodies are excessively damaged. But the coroner agrees that they did do this to each other. They stabbed each other 97 times
With
or some crazy number.
Whatever was available, they stabbed each other in broken glass and just, brutal.
Plus, they had a good time doing it because they both had orgasms as they killed each other. All right.
And that makes you go, what?
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 Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably stop there. It's a murder mystery with some stuff going on.
And it gets more complicated and things, a lot happens.
It's almost 2 hours. It's long for sure, and it's kind of slow moving. If you're not a big fan of subtitles, you might want to skip this one because it's a lot of reading.
There is a lot of reading.
But we never got bored with it.
But the mystery is really well written.
Yeah, it's mostly a mystery or police procedural, a lot like that movie Seven, which everybody loves.
Yeah, and like that, you kind of get the vibe that there might be something supernatural going on.
And some supernatural's going on throughout. Mm-hmm. Actually, it turns out to be even darker than we think in the end. But in the end, everything is explained and makes perfect sense, so it's not one of those weird mysteries.
It has a really good wrap-up.
But all the explanations are kind of nasty, and no one leaves happy.
No, it's not a happy movie.
Except for us. We thought it was pretty good.
It was entertaining, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, big thumbs up on that one.
Me too.
I'm thinking of, ahead to next year's, choosing our favorites. And there's a lot of movies to go yet. But this is going to be high on the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should start making notes about these things. You say that like every other week and narrow it down from the top 50 or whatever.
Yeah. My favorite 50 movies that I was on this year.
It has been 40 years since Ghostbusters came out.
40?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
2024 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
I saw the first one at the theater when it came out.
Oh, I saw it a couple of times. I liked it.
Yeah, so did I.
Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. Yeah. Directed by Jill Keenan. Written by him and Jason Reitman and Ivan Reitman. Stars Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, Finn Wolfhard. These are the same people that were in last year's Ghostbusters movie.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, must be a sequel.
It is a direct sequel.
And it's a long sequel at an hour and 55 minutes.
Uh-huh.
There is a trailer on YouTube.
Well, spoiler-free,
Spoiler-free. It's a direct continuation of the previous movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, with the same characters continuing their work. That one was sort of a getting the band back together kind of movie, and this is like what comes next.
And Egon's ghost made an appearance.
In the other three
in the previous movie, as well as the three Ghostbusters. A big teamwork kind of thing happened.
Yeah.
And this one, it's teamwork again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Egon free, except for a photo.
Yeah, he doesn't come back as a ghost in this one.
I guess the first one, they kind of had to make it real clear that, hey, look, the actor is dead. We got to do something. Mm-hmm. This one here we're moving on.
Yeah.
3 out of 4, the classic Ghostbusters make an appearance, as well as characters and ghosts from the original films. The new big bad is powerful, but once again, teamwork saves the day. The effects are excellent, of course, but it feels like a lot more of the same. The humor's a little stale, and the pacing is a little off. It was just okay.
It was.
I'm going to say the biggest weakness here is they're reaching back to the original.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that guy in the first movie who wanted to shut down the station and empty out the ghost repository, and he was just a jerk?
He's the mayor now.
He's the mayor now. It's the same freaking actor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got
still
the same
jerk.
thing he wants to do. And this is basically the same plot. He wants to shut them down. He wants to empty out their, what do you call that? The ghost dump?
The ghost repository, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same plot as that movie, but with a big bad that attacks at the end. But yeah, it's okay.
But he's still, after all these things have happened to the city, he's still that big of an a-hole about it and not supporting the Ghostbusters,
And
who
in
have
this city,
saved the city
there's like ghosts.
multiple times.
Even without all the movie big baddies, there's ghosts everywhere in this town, and they're all over the place catching them all the time. How could you have a city without the Ghostbusters in a world like this?
Yeah, it's been happening multiple times.
You need the Ghostbusters. They're as important as the police or the fire department if this sort of thing's going on.
How can he not get that at this point? Yeah.
Well, what happens?
Well, we open in 1904 as firefighters get called to the Manhattan Adventure Society. There's a locked door and there's screams inside, but there's no fire. They bust down the door and it's freezing. Everyone inside is frozen solid. And when the firemen disturb the strange person sitting in the corner, all the bodies shatter. They're that frozen solid. Yeah. And there's a mysterious bronze-looking orb sitting there, too. Well, that'll come back later. Well, today, the Ghostbusters, Gary Grubman and Callie Spengler race through town in the famous hearse car. Trevor and Phoebe are in the back seat feeling exploited. Outside, manhole covers are exploding into the sky all around them. It's the Hell's Kitchen sewer dragon ghost. And they use all their gadgets, including a drone-mounted trap to catch the thing. And there is some collateral damage, and that makes the news, and that's what gets them hauled in front of the mayor part, But, hello, they caught this dragon ghost. That's worse, right? Yeah. I don't know. The news remind us of who the Ghostbusters are and were.
In case this is your first movie.
Yeah, Well, the mayor, like we said, chews out the team. He points out that Phoebe is only 15, too young to know to be doing what she's doing. She's underage, and they're not paying her, too. Well, he wants to shut them down, still, for some reason. And at home, there is whiny family drama as Phoebe complains about her forced retirement. They seem to be having issues with the old containment unit. It's
the same containment. It's a 40-year-old containment unit, and it's starting to wear out or fill up or something.
It's been in use for 40 years, and it's filled to the brim. Well, we cut to Ray Stans doing a podcast about the supernatural with Podcast, the guy named Podcast, the character from the previous film. And it's a very weird show. Podcast has miniature marshmallow men in the basement, and they are reproducing like tribbles. There's lots of them. They're very cute, though.
Comic relief characters. They do all kinds of stupid stuff.
Yeah,
they're like minions, only smaller.
Yeah, teeny little squishy things. When a man comes in to sell some creepy stuff, the little men run and hide. Nadine brings in the ball that the weird character in the pre-credit sequence was holding. Ray says there may be an evil spirit trapped inside, and he scans the egg with his, handheld device scanner, and it goes off the scale.
There is a spirit inside.
There is definitely a thing inside, yeah. Well, upstairs, Trevor finds a bunch of trash in the attic, and Slimer's been eating. The group gets a call.
Yes, it's that same ghost from 40 years ago.
Yep.
We're doing callbacks.
He's still loose, and, still funny, The group gets a call, but they leave Phoebe behind. So she goes and plays plays chess with a ghost. And it's Melody, who died in a tenement fire many years ago. We should stop there, shouldn't we?
Yeah, there's good ghosts, and there's bad ghosts, and there's Slimers, and the librarian ghost from the first movie also reappears. And if it happened in the first movie, it's back. Mm-hmm. If it happened in the second movie, we've completely forgot that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, well, what happened to all the ghosts that got out of the firehouse? Because at some point, the device does get opened, and everything comes out.
Everything busts loose.
30 years. That should be 40 years of captures.
40 years of ghosts.
40 years of captures. It looks like New York City is going to be uninhabitable for a long time with that kind of activity.
The Ghostbusters are going to be busy again.
Yeah. Well, you got Zool running around there, and Vigo running around there, and the bad guy for the previous movie running around there. And
yeah, they were all caught.
All the bad things are out again.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is a problem.
Or presumably they caught some of them. Yeah, okay, whatever. You have to watch it and see.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continuation of Ghostbusters Afterlife, but there are a lot of connections, actors, characters, and even ghosts to the original films. The CGI and creatures are exceptional here. It's a very high-budget movie, and the humor is predictable at best. If you liked the previous film, now I'm talking Afterlife, not the originals. If you liked Afterlife, this is more of the same.
Mm-hmm. If you're a new generation, maybe enjoying them.
I'd say the old characters
with Afterlife, yeah.
Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd get a little bit more to do this time.
They do than in the last one, yeah.
Bill Murray, he's got 2 or 3 lines. He's in there briefly. He obviously didn't want to be bothered, but the other 2 guys are in it more than in the previous film.
And that's kind of the impression I had when he showed up. It's like, yeah, I don't want to be bothered here, but I'm just here.
I'm here for the paycheck.
Yeah, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
Well, of all the Ghostbusters movies, this was one.
Of all the Ghostbusters movies, I'm going to say this was the least.
This was my least favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe the next one will be better again.
Maybe.
If there is another one.
I bet there probably will be. They've got to have at least a trilogy.
They keep making money, so they'll keep making more probably.
Yeah. All right, now for the weird one of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Frankie Freako, 2024. Saw the trailer for this like 6 months ago, and I'm like, we got to see that.
Yeah, and we saw it, and we liked it.
Written and directed by Stephen Kostanski. Stars Connor Sweeney, Christy Wordsworth, Adam Brooks. Hour and 25 minutes, and there is a trailer in the show notes.
So it's fast and moves briskly.
Yeah, it's something.
Well, this was more of a crazy comedy science fiction than horror. It's got the horror elements.
Got bits.
Yeah, but it's heavy on the sci-fi.
Yeah.
And the humor, yeah. A little bit of a slow start on a setup, and then things get wild with the appearance of Frankie and his pals, Frankie Freako. The creature puppets are pretty awesome. The script is silly, and it's very fun. We both enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Are they puppets?
I think so.
What are those things?
Rubbery puppets.
You think they're just regular puppets?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Most of it, yeah.
Connor's boss, Mr. Buechler, says his planned presentation is bland and boring. He needs to spice it up. Connor is bland and boring, but he also takes the comment personally. Connor goes home to Christina, who wants to have some sexy time. But she's a little too sexy, and he doesn't even make it to the undressing stage.
Whoop.
She calls him bland too, as well as square. He doesn't listen to her since the Antiques Roadshow is on the TV.
Priorities.
I know, Antiques Roadshow is way better than sex. Connor gets upset when someone on the show swears. Oh, that's okay now. We can say damn on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's pretty uncool. Then he sees a 1-900 number that promises to spice up his life. Something in the ad appeals to Connor, who keeps telling himself, I am not a square. He is.
He is, totally.
Well, the next day at the business meeting, Connor hands out party hats for his very boring presentation. The meeting goes badly, and he hallucinates the people in the meeting becoming ugly little trolls. Afterwards, the boss wants Connor to come in on Saturday to help shred some evidence for him on camera. The boss is in trouble for something, and he wants someone else to shred the evidence.
Somebody needs to take the fall for him. Yeah.
Well, Christina is going on for a trip for a weekend, and she jokes, have a freaky weekend. Well, as Connor cleans the house, not being square at all, he keeps seeing ads for Frankie Freako. He gives in and calls the number, as thunder and lightning appear from nowhere. The kitchen suddenly gets all windy, but Connor shouts, I'm ready to party.
And then he wakes up in the morning, and there was a party.
There was a party. There's caffeinated soda cans all over the house. Did he do that? The house also has graffiti all over it. He goes into the kitchen and sees Frankie Freako and his friends, and they're making a mess. They have Polaroids of Connor freaking out with them last night. One of them shoots Connor in the neck, and he gets all bloody. The 3 ugly little puppets then smash one of Christina's prized statues, and then Connor knows he's in trouble. All right. That's a good place, probably. There's 3 little evil puppets that cause him some trouble.
Mayhem. They are
Very
mayhem puppets.
Yes.
Yeah. But then things get a little more
it gets worse,
too.
yes. It gets twisted.
It gets twisted, yeah. And the boss gets involved. And, And Christina comes back home eventually. Yeah.
I want to know where I can get some fart cola. You open it up and it smells like a fart.
And that's the name brand of the cola that's all over.
And this is from the same director as Psycho Gorman, so there shouldn't be many surprises that this is a comedy. It's not quite the same kind of comedy, though. I thought Psycho Gorman was very
Kid-oriented.
Kid-oriented,
This
yes.
is more adult-oriented for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The puppets here are really well done, and they all have distinct personalities. Shabadoo.
Mm-hmm.
Shabadon't.
And then there's even more puppets, too.
Oh, yeah. The storyline is just kind of insane, but it all actually kind of makes sense in the end. Not really quite convinced that this is horror in any way, but it's definitely funny and weird.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you like Troll or Leprechaun, this is in the same neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it worked for me. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so, I heard last week that there was a Hammer horror movie that we have never seen. So I had to look it up.
The Stranglers of Bombay.
And I'm not quite really convinced that it is horror. Remember, I did the Hammer horror guide, the horror guy's guide to the Hammer. Let's see, what is it called?
Horror Guy's
The
Guide.
Horror Guy's Guide to the Hammer Horror. And you can get that at horrorguys.com, of course. But I left this one out because I didn't think it was horror at the time. And now that we've seen it, it's iffy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it does have Christopher Lee.
Yeah, that's a good point right there.
It's got a big body count.
1959, The Stranglers of Bombay, directed by Terence Fisher, written by David Zelig Goodman, stars Guy Rolfe, Alan Cuthbertson, and Andrew Cruikshank. Hour and 20 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, this is roughly based on historical events. It's also a movie made in a time in history when brownwashing, and other colors of washing, was the way things were done. Almost all of the named Indian characters are played by white people, as well as many extras. It was well made and interesting, and fairly entertaining, but it's kind of pushing it to call it horror. Hey, you said there was Christopher Lee in here. I think we're getting our movies mixed up. He's not in this.
I am, because this later came... In 1961, there was a movie, The Terror of the Tongs.
They wanted Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing for this, but they were busy.
Yeah.
One of the other movies.
And I'm confusing the two. The Terror of the Tongs was an Asian movie.
But it's the same plot line almost.
Same plot line almost.
They retasked the script.
And again, a bunch of white people playing ethnic characters in that one, too.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a problem.
You can play
with this
brown,
one.
you can play yellow.
Yeah.
Either way, you're just British people.
But anyway, I apologize. I was misspeaking on this one. This is not the one that has Christopher Lee, but it is a Hammer one. Yeah.
Yes.
And that was the connection. They wanted Christopher Lee.
It does have Roger Delgado, the original master from Doctor Who.
Yeah, I recognized him.
And a bunch of old-timey British people that I really don't recognize other than him.
Who are playing Indians.
Many of them, yes.
Many of them are, yeah.
Well, what happens?
Well, we open on a bunch of Indian men playing drums. The leader tells a story about an old-time monster. Only the goddess Kali would dare battle that monster, and she won. But the drops of blood became new monsters. Well, she learned to kill without spilling blood, so they wouldn't create any more monsters. And she taught her followers to strangle their victims.
Ah.
Well, 3 new boys are joining the Kali cult. And this is an initiation rite. And credits roll. And then we get a text scroll telling us about the Kali cult that existed for hundreds of years until 1829.
Okay, so it is based on reality. It's based on something that's real.
Yeah, loosely based on this cult that was real, and they would strangle their victims. They had a ceremonial cloth that was a special strip of cloth that comes into play. And yeah, when you join the club, you get your cloth, and you must protect your cloth. And
Did they say that in the movie? At one point, they made a big deal out of one guy dropped his cloth and somebody had it that shouldn't.
Yeah,
but I don't think they ever
mugged him
explained
to
what
get
the
it back.
cloth was used for.
For strangling.
Well, yeah, I got
Yeah.
that, but okay.
Yeah.
I don't think they
that was
spelled
their
it
tool.
out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, Colonel Henderson sits in court and listens to Mr. Patel Shari, who used to be important. Outside, Captain Harry Lewis is late for the meeting where the business owners complain about people, horses, and whole carriages that have disappeared. Mr. Burns and Mr. Patel complain about Henderson's men not solving the problem. And this is back in the day when it was British colonized.
And most of these people are like captain and lieutenant and all
Military.
But they're not. Everyone in this movie is East India Company. There are no soldiers in this movie.
But they're like wannabe.
Even though they wear the uniforms and stuff. Yep.
It's very military, but it's just business. Yeah. But anyway, but Britain's military was backing them up, too.
Yeah,
at that
they could
time.
call in the army if they wanted to.
Yeah. Well, when the businessmen leave, Harry explains to his boss about 1,119 people going missing last year. Harry wants to be put in charge of solving the problem, and he rushes home to tell his wife Mary about it.
I told the boss about the problem. He's going to put me in charge. Ha ha.
Yay.
Except.
Yeah. Well, Anderson then assigns Harry to escort a carriage, which is promptly robbed. Captain Connor Smith reports to Harry he's just arrived, and as they return to town with their 2 prisoners, the thieves escape. Connor Smith is assigned to investigate the missing people, much to Harry's displeasure. He wanted
Put this
the
new
case.
guy in charge.
Yeah, he wanted the case. Well, we see that Mr. Patel knows the 2 thieves, and he wants that behavior stopped. He's got both escaped prisoners, and he punishes them. And then both men get their eyes poked out with flaming skewers.
But that's just the beginning for these guys.
Yeah, things get worse for them. Because they they're supposed to be more discreet about it.
Yeah.
This whole cult thing, and yeah, they were indiscreet. Well, Harry's servant, Ram Das, reports that he saw his brother in the crowd earlier, and his brother went missing 10 years ago. Harry gives him food and money to follow the caravan with his brother. Well, back at the Kali camp, the 2 eyeless men are in a cage. Ramdas's brother, Gopali, is there. He's a member now. The high priest teaches him how to act to white people before robbing them. Bundar reports that Ramdas has been seen approaching the camp and that Das works for Harry, who took the sacred cloth from the captured men. We should leave there.
Yeah, bad things happen.
Yeah, they mug him to get the cloth
There's
back.
lots of fighting and strangling and murder and yeah.
But they do figure out eventually that it's a cult and crack down on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, looking at the credits, I don't think there was a single actual Indian credited in the film. A couple of the background characters probably are, but nobody who actually speaks.
Right.
And it turns out the British censors hated this film for its excessive violence, and it's been hard to find in the UK ever since. I mean, by today's standards, it's kind of tame, but it was pretty brutal for the 1950s.
Mm-hmm. It does have a body count.
It's a stretch to call it horror today, but it was considered excessively brutal at the time. This Hammer film was intended to star Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, who were both otherwise occupied. Some of the sets were built for The Horror of Dracula, the 1958 film, and were torn down right after this one was finished filming. It's at least partially historical, based on the life of real Henry Sleeman, who wiped out the Thuggee cult in the mid-1800s. The basic story, this basic script, was reused as a remake a few years later called The Terror of the Tongs.
Or the same thing happens in China.
Yeah, it's basically the same. There's a cult of killers, and yeah, they got to track down who the killers are, and it's a bunch of Chinese people in that one.
And that one does have Christopher Lee playing a Chinese guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what'd you think?
Well, it's got it's good production values and some familiar faces. Kind of, I don't know. It's more of a historical action drama than a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's got
It's got a murder count and a body count.
yeah,
But yeah.
cults and cultists. You know, we've seen lots of other movies with cults and cultists, and those fall into horror. So why not?
But if you want to find an example of a black and white 1959 movie with a lot of action, I'd recommend checking it out.
Yeah, it was decent.
Yeah.
One that we're probably going to be a little mixed on: 1971's Godzilla vs. Hedorah, aka Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, directed by Yoshimatsu Banno and Ishiro Honda. You know, almost all, I think one of the old Godzilla movies that we've seen was not directed by Ishiro Honda. Mm-hmm. You gotta talk about the wide variety of quality in these things.
I don't know what, probably money factors.
Probably.
Yeah.
Written by Yoshimatsu Banno and Takeshi Kimura, stars Akira Yamanouchi, Toshi Kimura, and Hiroyuki Kawase. Hour and 25 minutes, and there is trailer, just a trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free.
This one beats us over the head with the message that pollution is bad.
Wait. Pollution is bad?
And we should do better or else.
Oh, my.
And the overbearing message, I thought, took a little bit of the fun away. But it does have plenty of Godzilla and a big bad creature action. Plus humans doing science and military stuff. So we thought it was okay, not the best of them.
Now, the previous one we did, All Monsters Attack, was very child-centric.
Yeah, it was.
The kid was the main character, and he talked to baby Godzilla, and he was very kiddie-oriented. And this was supposed to be in the same kind of vein, but I thought there is a kid in this one. But it's not as childish-centric.
No, this has got more horror elements to it. Because the Smog Monster excretes, acidy pollution stuff that is like, people collapse and they're instantly a skeleton laying there.
Yeah, the previous movie was like an allegory for childhood bullying. This one, it's just monsters fighting, and pollution is bad.
And a lot of collateral deaths. What happens?
Well, we open on shots of various industries and also a bubbling lake where something rears its ugly head as credits roll. We hear this cheerful song involving pollution and the end of the world, and we watch many scenes of floating trash and sludge.
And that's very James Bond-esque.
Oh, that song is great.
With a woman singing, floating across the screen.
Yeah, we see
with
her
a background
the
of
trash.
pollution and stuff.
It's very colorful. It's like you said, very James Bond.
I thought that the opening scene of that song and later in the nightclub,
maybe the best part of the movie.
I thought those were the best parts of the movie. Yeah.
Well, we cut to a little boy, Ken, playing with his Godzilla toys. Mr. Gohai brings Ken's father, Dr. Toru Yano, a marine biologist, an odd fish to examine. The old man whines that he hasn't caught a single shrimp recently and it's getting worse. News reports talk about a new giant creature that's been attacking ships in the harbor. Well, Ken points out that it looks a lot like the big tadpole that Mr. Gohai brought them, and Dr. Yano agrees. Yano then goes scuba diving to see what he can learn about the missing shrimp. He sees lots of submerged trash. Ken stays on the beach and soon encounters the giant creature, but it turns around and ignores him. It goes after Yano instead, who is badly injured. Well, the news reporters come to interview the family, and Ken has named the tadpole creature Hedorah. Yano checks out one of the little tadpoles and learns that it's a mineral, not biological at all.
It's like it's made of glop. It's
Yeah.
made of sludge.
He puts a few grains of the creature powder in water, and it comes to life. It was born of sludge.
Because science.
He watches two separate pieces join together to make a bigger creature.
So there's kind of not just one Hedorah at this point.
I think all the sludge is coming together to evolve.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, somewhere else, Godzilla encounters floating sewage and fallout. He don't like it and shoots it with his atomic breath. Well, we cut to a Japanese hippie disco, where everyone shows us that this was the 70s, in the most 70s way possible. We get another musical number, same as the opening theme song, about extinct species and poisonous metals. Everybody needs to sing a song about mercury poisoning. That's a great song.
It was an awesome song, yeah.
As she sings, we watch Hedorah crawl around on dry land and sucking the smog out of a smokestack.
So it eats the pollution.
It does.
And grows stronger from it.
Godzilla reaches land too, and he seems to want to find whoever's been making all that mess. Unsurprisingly, the two creatures meet and fight. Back at the disco, everyone puts on fish head masks as the song finishes. Why?
Because why not?
I don't know.
Because it looked cool.
They're all having fun until a Hedorah tentacle slides down the steps and leaves goop all over their cat.
And it's acidic and pollution. And
the cat does not appreciate it.
So Hedorah is both eating pollution and making pollution worse and excreting acid and excreting acid smoke. And just generally making a mess of things.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll stop there. So there's Godzilla, there's a Smog Monster, and there's characters.
Yeah.
There's some crazy battles. Oh, like you said, those opening credits very, very seems like they were going for a James Bond kind of opening. And subtle.
Not subtle.
Subtle.
No.
It's a word these filmmakers never learned. There were even little animated segments between scenes showing some of the stuff that Hedorah does. we can't make enough fake pollution to actually make this look realistic. So we'll have little cartoons.
Cartoon pollution.
And did we really need a song about mercury pollution? Pollution is bad. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Sure
Hedorah is still just a guy in a suit. But it's an interesting design with one red glowing eye and seaweed tentacles. And he changes form a couple of times, too.
Yeah, Hedorah, as he evolves, he gradually becomes the huge tentacled creature that's a match for Godzilla.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it is that I dislike about this one, but it absolutely did not grab me. Maybe it was the over-the-top message, since all the other usual Godzilla tropes and ideas are pretty decent here. Oh, also, this is the only one where Godzilla flies.
Best part of the movie. Okay,
it is
not best
so
part.
stupid. You got to see this
it's
part.
So stupid, yeah. He uses his breath. And
like a jet engine.
Like a jet engine, yeah.
Of course, he flies backwards because of it, but he
blasts
does
himself
fly.
backwards, yeah. I don't know. It was only an hour and 25 minutes. I thought it managed to feel a little bit longer.
But it was still better than All Monsters Attack, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes, it was.
You really hated that one.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was too kiddie. Yeah.
All right, Toad Boy, it's time for some shorts. Mm-hmm. And that's the name of our first one, 2023's Toad Boy. Written and directed by Philip J. McLaughlin. Stars Cliff Chamberlain, James Holzel, and Tamir Tucker. A little under 13 minutes, and it's on YouTube, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
Well, someone wrote Toad Boy on Todd's locker.
Are you sure it's not Todd Boy?
Yeah.
No, it's clearly Toad Boy.
Yeah. And when the school janitor goes to wash it off, he finds something strange inside. This leads to the principal calling Todd's parents. There have been some bullying incidents in the past. Todd hasn't come to school recently because of that, and he just gets the parents' voicemail. Well, the sister is there, and the principal eventually decides he needs to do a home visit. Takes the sister home and wants to see Todd, and things get even weirder from there when they get to the house.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Well, as Charlotte talks to the principal in the basement, the audio was kind of muffled badly enough that I had to turn the subtitles on.
Yeah, a little bit there.
It's like they recorded it in a basement, which they did, but it probably should have been overdubbed or something. Other than that, it's all very good. It looks like a tale of planned retribution and revenge, but it turns out to be much more than that.
Yeah, it does.
It looks good, the makeup effects are excellent, and the whole plot is just messed up.
Boy, that was some good makeup. Yeah.
All right, now another one. We got an older one here, 2021, The Mechanical Dancer. Directed by Jenna Jalett, written by Jenna Jalett and Josh Jalett. It's animated, and it's just 13 minutes, and this is on YouTube.
This was awesome.
You don't like cartoons.
I liked this cartoon.
Okay. Well, what happens?
A mad scientist and his faithful assistant show a dancing robot to a theater audience. Well, it doesn't work so well. The robot ends up falling apart. So they have to look for an alternative. The young assistant, however, isn't fully on board with the old man's plot. Will there be a happy ending?
The filmmakers must have asked themselves, what if Tim Burton animated The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari?
It does have that look to it.
It does. And so the characters are obviously based on that. All the characters come straight out of Caligari, but the looks come from a Tim Burton cartoon. At least that's what it looks like. That's what makes me think.
Mm-hmm, me too. And it's a silent film.
It is silent, and it's black and white. Uses all those Dutch angles and German Impressionism from Caligari and other films of that time period. It's not exactly black and white. It's tinted. If you remember Dr. Caligari, it's not exactly black and white either. The frames are tinted.
Colored.
Sometimes it's sort of brownish. Sometimes it's kind of bluish. And this is like that. It's beautifully done, and the characters all show emotion and nuance.
And it's got a nice story to it.
I guess it's, it's CGI. I think it's made with Maya or something like that. It's a CGI cartoon, but it is very well done.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
if you like the old silent classics, you're going to love this one.
Yeah, you should check it out.
And it's longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be like 4 minutes. It went on for like almost 15. So, yeah, there's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Very good, yeah.
Hey, that's all we got this week.
Oh.
We had a short week with the shorts.
We have to go watch more then.
We got to watch more for next week.
Okay.
We're going to have some good stuff next week too, aren't we?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. Well, we'll be back next week then. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.